I was a millionaire lost in translation until the cleaning lady changed my life forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It felt like the universe decided to toy with me. I was sitting in my luxurious penthouse, sipping on an expensive glass of wine, staring at the skyline. The city sparkled, but I felt empty, lost. Each shimmering light reminded me of a choice I'd made. I was surrounded by opulence, yet drowning in loneliness. Then she walked in. Maria, the cleaning lady. Just an ordinary woman. Thick, dark hair pulled back carelessly. A tattered orange sweater that hung loose on her frame. Yet, there was something about her. A spark in her eye that didn't match the grime she scrubbed away. I watched her move fluidly through my space, and there was magic in her mundane rhythm. "Why don't you sit?" I ventured awkwardly, my voice cracking. The loneliness echoed in my vast home. She raised an eyebrow, hesitating. It was as if my invitation pulled her back into the reality I had numbed myself against. Slowly, she sat on a delicate chair that seemed to want to collapse under the weight of her presence. "You have a beautiful place," she said, her voice soft but steady. There was no awe or envy, just honesty. That hit me like a warm breeze on a cold day. I wanted to tell her that yes, the walls were beautiful, but the heart inside them was as empty as the wine glass I kept refilling. "Thank you, but it's just a house." I sighed. My hands trembled as I set my glass down. The truth was so heavy. I wanted to confess my burdens. The fear of failure, the weight of expectations. I wanted her to see the darkness that lurked behind my glamorous facade. But could she? There was a silence between us. It stretched out, heavy and thick like the humidity of summer. I could hear my heart pounding wildly, competing with the faint buzzing of the city below. I felt her gaze cutting through my walls, peeling back the layers I had so carefully constructed. "Do you ever feel alone?" Mariah's voice broke the silence, shattering my facade. I wasn't expecting that. My breath hitched, and in that moment, I knew she understood. She sensed my torment. But how? Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. It jolted me to reality, bringing a wave of panic. "Can you get that?" I asked, not wanting to break the electric connection we had just forged. But in the back of my mind, I could hear my heart sinking. What if it was a reminder of my ties back to my empty world? She walked towards the door. I felt both terrified and relieved as she slipped out of sight. A moment later, I heard her voice, low and urgent. "What do you want?" The fear in her tone prickled the air, thickening it with tension. I rushed to the door to find her standing there, pale and shaken, facing a stranger. A man with a piercing gaze, dressed in a dark suit that seemed too tight for him. There was something unsettling about him. His lips curled into a cold smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Where is he?" the man asked, glancing between me and Maria. Confusion rippled through me. Who was he looking for? My heart raced, and I could feel the walls closing in. I had played it safe for so long, wrapped in my bubble of wealth and luxury. But suddenly, everything I had built was on the edge, teetering dangerously. What did this man want? I caught Maria's eye. She looked terrified, her hands trembling slightly. I stepped forward. "Who's looking for me?" I demanded, but my voice was barely a whisper. The question hung in the air, a loaded gun ready to go off. Facing that stranger, I slowly began to realize that the happiest moments in my life were the ones that had me on the edge. Could this be one of those moments? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The tension in the room thickened as the man shifted his weight, his intense stare locking onto mine. "I'm not here to play games, Mr. Kavanaugh," he said, his voice oozing authority. "I need you to come with me. Now." Maria inhaled sharply, stepping slightly back, her eyes darting between the man and me, unsure of the threat looming over us. Every refined instinct I honed in my world of wealth screamed at me to retreat, to slam the door shut and hide behind the lives I had built. But looking into Mariah's panicked gaze solidified a flicker of resolve within me. "What do you want?" I croaked, my heart pounding in rhythm with the urgency in the air. "I think you know," he replied, leaning closer, his steely gaze unflinching. "We have unfinished business to attend to." I could feel the walls of my lavish penthouse constricting, all the opulence that had once been my fortress becoming a gilded cage. Shadows from the past crept in, whispers of mistakes and choices I had tried so hard to bury. My mind raced to pin down what he could possibly mean, and then it hit me. A cascade of memories flooded back. Years ago, I had made deals in the less savory spectrums of business, thought I was invincible, wrapped in the delusion that my riches protected me from consequences. Now, that past was clawing its way back, and the truth was clawing me apart. Just as I felt the ground beneath me tremble, I caught a brief flicker of defiance flash across Mariah's face. "What do you mean? You can't just come in here and demand." The man turned to her, his smile fading. "Stay out of this, lady. This is between me and him." I bristled at his tone. She has every right to know. But the weight of the moment threatened to suffocate any words I could muster. How could I drag Maria into a life of chaos and consequence she didn't deserve? "Mr. Kavanaugh," he barked, snapping me back to the moment. "This isn't a discussion. Either you come with me willingly, or I will have no choice but to take you as is." Desperation coiled in my gut. Am I being threatened? The man's smirk returned, an omen of far worse to come. "You don't need to be scared, just compliant." Maria, emboldened by that brief flash of courage, stepped slightly in front of me, her fierce protectiveness surprising us both. "If you want him, you'll have to get through me." I looked at her, astonished. A simple cleaning lady, standing valiantly before this looming threat. It shook me to my core. Why did she care? Before I could respond, the man's nostrils flared in irritation. "Very well," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "You can continue playing hero, but in the end, you'll just end up collateral damage." He moved towards her, but I couldn't let that happen. "Stop. Just give me a moment." I took a deep, trembling breath, scanning the room for any hope. A fight was brewing, but everything in me wanted to keep Maria safe and scathed from my chaos. Time seemed to stretch while I sought answers from within. Would I walk away from all I had built, just for a fleeting moment of connection? It was insane. But at that moment, it was crystal clear the emptiness of wealth was a far greater threat than the danger lurking outside my door. As I gathered myself, the lights from the city beyond flickered, reflecting choices buzzing like electric energy in my mind. So many things left unsaid, opportunities squandered. How could I bring sincerity into the world I had distanced myself from for so long? Just when I felt my resolve pulse with determination, the stranger's phone buzzed in a far-off pocket, momentarily diverting his attention. Maria whispered urgently at my side, "You have to get out. Just run." My heart sank. They were after me, but this wasn't the time to be driven by fear. "No," I whispered back. "I won't leave you." "Mr. Kavanaugh." The stranger was regaining his composure, his attention fully back on me. "Make your choice." That I stood frozen, battling the swirling storm within me. Just as I was about to respond, ready to break free from the expectations strangling me, a sudden crash erupted from the window behind us, sending shards of glass flying, and a loud roar of chaos that echoed through the room. "Go," I shouted instinctively, eyes wide with dread. But just as I pressed forward, wanting to shield Maria from harm, something in the chaos caught my attention, a glimpse of something familiar amidst the pandemonium. The realization hit me like a freight train, a figure I hadn't seen in years, one that had vanished from my life like a ghost. "Marcus?" I gasped, my breath hitching in my throat. It couldn't be him. What were the chances? Why now, and how deep did this rabbit hole go? As confusion painted my vision, I felt the ground shift beneath me, the emotional weight of everything colliding into this moment, forcing a decision that could alter the course of my life forever. The shattered glass glistened like a rain of diamonds as I tried to process the figure standing amid the chaos, frozen in disbelief. Marcus's name echoed in my mind like a haunting melody, a past I thought I had severed cleanly, only to find it cutting deeply once again. He was a man who could symbolize either salvation or damnation, and I wasn't sure which I wanted to face first. "Marcus!" I shouted again, my voice strained, desperate to bridge years of silence between us. A flurry of emotions surged through me: anger, betrayal, and a loneliness that had lingered ever since he disappeared without a word. The stranger, momentarily taken aback by the unexpected entrance, shifted his focus from me to Marcus, his expression tightening with annoyance. "You've got 5 seconds to leave, or this gets ugly." Mariah's hand gripped my arm, her warmth grounding me amidst the chaos. "We have to get out of here, Nathan." He's right. We don't want to be caught in the crossfire. But every part of me hesitated. I needed to understand what brought Marcus back into my life at this precise moment, amidst threats and broken glass. "What are you doing here?" I finally managed to voice the question hanging heavily between us. His eyes flickered with a mixture of acknowledgement and regret, just as they had the last time we stood in the same room, years ago. "I came to warn you, Nathan. They're not just after you. They know about the other side of you, the side you've tried to bury." The man's mouth formed a thin line as he tightened his grip on the folder he had brought in, clenching it like a lifeline. "This isn't a game. You have to choose now." Maria looked at me, her eyes wide with fear as sirens blared in the distance. But the chaos around us faded into the background. Her presence became my anchor. "We can't stay. Please," she urged, her voice trembling. "To leave or to confront the past that had risen from the shadows." "Marcus, if they're coming for me, what can we do?" I pressed, feeling a squeeze around my heart as hope intertwined with anxiety. "I have a plan," he replied, urgency lacing his tone. "But we need to move quickly. They're always watching." The shadowy man stepped forward, his presence dominating the room. "Last chance, Kavanaugh. You're either coming with me peacefully, or it'll have to escalate." Time felt slow, each heartbeat echoing in my ears as I weighed my options. The threat of my prior life tugging at my conscience versus the tether formed with Maria, the emotional risk was immeasurable. "Go. Take her and run," Marcus shouted, breaking through the weight of indecision. "They'll hold him back." "No," I shouted back, panic clawing at my resolve. I could feel the pull of destiny tugging me in two different directions. But while my heart wavered, desperation and love for Maria surged within me. "I'm not abandoning you. Stop messing around and make a choice." The stranger growled with rising impatience, the warning clear in his eyes. With the sounds of sirens closing in, an unexpected anger poured out of me. This wasn't just about survival. This was about reclaiming my life. "You want me? Then you'll take us both." A flicker of surprise crossed the man's face, but there was no time to analyze it. Before I could say more, Marcus darted towards the man, confronting him and sparking a struggle that sent both of them crashing into a nearby table. "Go," Marcus yelled again, shoving the stranger aside. His courage ignited my fire. Every moment of reluctance vanished in the face of loyalty and devotion. I grabbed Mariah's hand, my grip tightening around hers. "Now." We dashed toward the door, a cacophony of chaos still swirling behind us. I could feel the ground trembling with the weight of our choices, but there was no turning back. A fragment of hope flickered as I led Maria away from the danger, but then I heard it. A gun click, razor-sharp against the backdrop of our frantic breaths. My eyes darted back, and in a heart-stopping moment, I saw the man aiming, his finger poised on the trigger. "You think you can escape so easily?" he taunted, his voice chillingly calm in contrast to the madness. Terror wrapped its tendrils around us as I halted, instinctively pulling Maria closer to shield her from whatever horror was about to unfold. "Nathan," she pleaded, her voice trembling. But before any decision could take form within my racing mind, a shot rang out, reverberating against the walls of the penthouse. I felt the world tilt, the floor swaying beneath me, and it was as if time had frozen for one agonizing heartbeat. Cold realization crashed over me. I'd just put the one person I cared about more than myself in grave danger. I looked from the man to Marcus. Confusion and dread clawed within me. Someone would pay for this, but would it be me, or would Marcus save us both? The moment stretched, and with an unexpected twist of fate, the gunman fell to the ground. But not from Marcus's hand. A shadow had darted in from the side, and I couldn't process who or what had chosen that moment to intervene. Hope and horror flared together in my heart, but the repercussions of our choices began to loom larger than the immediate danger. Everything changed as I stood frozen, witnessing the sudden turn of events. Desperate to hold on to what felt like hope while lurking within the shadows, the remnants of my past started surging back. more alive than ever. The world felt distant, like I was trapped in a fragile bubble, watching chaos unfold as if it were a scene played out for an audience. The moment stretched infinitely, the air thick with unspoken words, and I could scarcely breathe. The unexpected assailant lay sprawled on the ground, and I didn't know if I should feel relief or dread. Maria clutched my arm, trembling, eyes wide with disbelief. "Nathan, what just happened?" Her voice barely broke through the fog surrounding my mind. Before I could respond, a tall figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the light like a specter conjured from my fears that I told you they were after you. The newcomer said, voice steady, yet carrying an urgency that seemed to electrify the air between us. And Marcus was right. "It's worse than you think. Who are you?" I demanded, instinctively positioning myself to protect Maria. "What do you mean?" "I'm Sophia," she replied, her gaze unfocused, as if she were processing memories only she could see. "I used to work with Marcus. They've been tracking him, tracking you. It's a matter of time before they come for both of you." Marcus had rolled away from the man, now slowly getting to his feet, shaking like a marionette released from its strings. He looked hurt, but there were shadows in his eyes that told a deeper story. "Sophia, you should have stayed away. You risked too much. Spare me the lecture." She snapped back, and for a moment, the tension lessened, replaced with an old familiarity as they exchanged sidelong glances. "I can't sit back and watch any longer." Panic swirled inside me. "You two know each other. There's no time for this," Marcus said, shaking off his surprise. "They will be back. We need to go now. What about him?" Maria whispered, tipping her head toward the gunman, whose eyes had fluttered open. Dread slithered through the room, settling deep in my gut like lead. "He's not dead," Marcus muttered, "but he won't be a problem for long. We need to regroup." Before the sound of rapid footsteps echoed in the hallway, and the tension snapped back into place. My heart raced. "We can't stay here," I urged, pulling Maria closer. "We have to move. Now." Sophia darted to the window, peering out cautiously. "I see a black van pulling up. We can't go that way." "Then which way?" I could feel the weight of decisions pressing down on me, feeding my anxiety. The last thing I wanted was to lead us into more danger. Yet part of me felt a strange exhilaration coursing through my veins, a need to confront the dark forces that had shadowed my life for so long. Through the back, Marcus pointed toward a narrow door barely visible behind a scattered pile of furniture. "It leads to a service stairwell." With no time to waste, I nodded, and we all sprinted toward it. The moment we pushed through the door, I felt a shift in the atmosphere, as if the shadows were clawing at our heels. The air thickened with uncertainty as we bounded down the staircase, each step a desperate plea for safety. Heart pounding, I halted at the landing and glanced back at Marcus, who had fallen slightly behind. "What do you know about them?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "They're more than just goons," he replied, breathing heavily as he caught up to us. "They're organized. They want something from you, something powerful. If they find you," he trailed off, and I could see the fear lurking beneath the bravado. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted Maria, her face blanched with apprehension, yet her body remained steady beside me. In that fleeting moment, I was reminded of the demons we each carried. "We'll figure this out," I assured her, even as uncertainty gripped me. "Yeah, but how?" she questioned, her voice wavering as she bit her bottom lip. "You're already haunted by your past now." A sudden crash echoed behind us, the door we had just exited splintering from the force of approaching boots. My heart raced, and our gentle pact of reassurance began to fracture. "We need to reach the back alley," Marcus urged. I sharply turned to me. "If we can make it out, I have a friend who can help." Before I could respond, a voice boomed from behind the door, forcing my heart into my throat. "Come out, Nathan. We know you're in there. You can't hide forever." Every nerve in my body screamed for an escape, for some semblance of safety. "You wanted to face your past," Marcus said, his eyes locking onto mine, raw intensity coursing through. "Now it's here. Don't let them break you. Fight back." Against my better instincts, I felt emboldened by the words. Another crash echoed behind us. "Let's go." The exit was a dimly lit doorway at the back of the stairs, and as we barreled through it, I was struck by the blur of movement. A tall figure stood outside, and I gasped as recognition washed over me. "Stop, Nathan." They called my name, the very voice I thought I'd never hear again. With dread pooling in my stomach and hope flying too close to the flames, I turned to face the figure, only to be confronted with a reality I had never anticipated. The face before me was almost a mirage, suspended between familiarity and bewilderment. My heart leaped, then plummeted. Lily? I managed to choke out, disbelief mingling with dread. She stood there, utterly real and undeniably alive. Nathan. Her eyes shimmered as they locked onto mine, a mix of relief and anguish dancing in her gaze. "I'm so glad to see you," but the moment shattered like glass, splinters shooting through my already frayed nerves. Marcus' warning echoed in my minda cacophony of threats and danger. "What are you doing here?" I whispered urgently, the weight of my words dragging with trepidation. "That I was searching for you," she said, moving closer, but the alarm bells in my head shouted for her to stay away. I could sense the tension in the air, the urgency lurking beneath the surface like a coiled snake. "Lily, you shouldn't have come. They're looking for me." "For you?" Lily shook her head, defiance brightening her expression. "I don't care. All this time, waiting, thinking you were gone forever. I've spent my days wondering who took you from me, and why." Her voice trembled as a surge of emotion swept through her. "But I found you. It struck me then, how the world felt different with her standing there. Each heartbeat resonated louder, each breath felt deeper. Yet reality clawed at my insides, reminding me of the peril that surrounded us. "We need to go," I urged, glancing back at the still-closed door behind me, anticipating a rush of footsteps, imagining the betrayal that awaited us if we lingered. Suddenly, Sophia shoved a small backpack into my hands. "Take this," she ordered, her tone sharp. "It has cash, food, and a map of the area. If we make it out, you'll need it." "Why are we wasting time?" Marcus pressed, a flurry of anxiety over the uncertainty creeping in. Lily's gaze flicked toward the door, instinctively aligning with my own fear. "You're right. Let's move," she said, her voice shifting to a steady resolve. I could hardly process the turmoil in my heart. Her presence was a flickering light, yet the shadows were relentless. With footsteps echoing closer, I steeled myself, gesturing for them to follow. We bolted down the alley, the chill of the night wrapping around us like an unwelcome shroud. My mind raced with questions. How had she found me? Why now? As we reached the end of the narrow alley, I stopped abruptly, gripped by apprehension. "Where do we go from here?" "Over there," Marcus said, pointing toward an old sedan parked alongside the curb. "If we can get to the car, my friend can handle the rest." Caution bloomed in my mind. "And what if it's a trap?" "I'll vouch for him," Marcus replied, urgency etched into every line of his face. "He's not like them. No. We can't just trust anyone." Maria interjected, worry panting through her words. "We don't have a choice," I argued back, the weight of time pressing mercilessly against us. "Just follow my lead." With hesitant steps, we dashed toward the car, and I fumbled with the handle as if the act itself might draw unwanted eyes. As I opened the door, a figure shifted in the driver's seat, an unfamiliar face emerging from the shadows of the interior. "Get in," he barked, and a sense of urgency shot through me. Knowing we had mere seconds, I threw myself into the back, pulling Maria and Lily along with me. Marcus hopped into the passenger seat. "Go, Jake. Now." As the vehicle lurched forward, my heart raced, a chaotic mixture of escape and dread twisting my stomach. The streets outside blurred, a mishmash of colors and lights against the dark night, but I kept turning to glance at Lily, captivated yet terrified at the sight of her. "Why are you really here?" I asked, the words tumbling out, the question demanding an answer that could unravel or bind us. Her eyes softened, a hint of hesitation before she spoke. "Because I believed in you, Nathan. I needed you." But before I could process her words, the rearview mirror caught movement that sent terror crashing through my chest. A black van, the same one we had seen earlier, appeared on our tail, its headlights cutting through the darkness like daggers. "Not again," Marcus whispered, a streak of panic slicing through his calm demeanor. "Can't we lose them?" I urged, the urgency clawing at me as the van's imposing figure loomed closer. "Please, we'll try," Jake said, his jaw clenched. But hang on. The car swerved through narrow streets, a dance with danger, yet the van stayed relentless, a predator unyielding in its pursuit. I couldn't shake the thought of how quickly everything had spun out of control. And then, without warning, Lily reached over, her hand brushing against mine. It was a fleeting moment, but it grounded me, tangled my fears with something achingly real hope. "Stay with me," she urged softly, her voice barely cutting through the chaos. But then an explosion resounded from behind us, a sudden crack that shattered the air. "Hold on," Jake shouted as the car jolted violently, sending my heart into a free fall. I could feel every soul in the vehicle bracing for impact. But right then, nothing could prepare me for the truth that would resurface from the depths of my psyche. My past wasn't done with me, and the ghosts that had haunted my steps were already drawing their battle lines. As terror gripped my throat, I realized that escape was no longer a luxury. It was a desperate race against a fight I wasn't ready to face. The car zoomed through the darkened streets, the engine roaring like a wounded beast as Jake maneuvered around corners and traffic jams, desperately trying to elude our pursuers. As the van gained speed behind us, every inch felt like a heartbeat stolen from our lives. I grasped Lily's hand tighter, forgetting for a moment the gravity of everything else. A fleeting sense of connection in the chaos felt like a lifeline. "Left," Marcus barked, pointing down a narrow side street just as the van's headlights illuminated us again. I could see the wild look on his face, and it mirrored my own fear. "Hold on," Jake shouted again, swerving left as he slammed on the accelerator. The tires screeched against the pavement, and we were thrown into the side door with a sickening thud. I felt the weight of my world crush against me, my heart pounding against my ribs like a drummer summoning hope amid despair. Each second stretched painfully, my thoughts a wild storm as I locked eyes with Lily. "What if we don't make it?" I desperately asked, loneliness creeping its way back into my skin despite her presence. The thought of failing her, of failing us, clawed at my insides. She leaned closer, brushing my cheek with her free hand. "Don't say that. We will make it." Her voice, soothing and resolute, wrapped around me like a warm blanket, but I could still sense the worry simmering just beneath the surface. "Lily, you have to realize that they won't stop. They'll come after you as soon as we're out of sight," I whispered, dread filling every corner of my chest, and watched as her eyes flickered with uncertainty. "I don't care. I've already lost you once. I'm not losing you again." Her declaration surged through me like a rush of adrenaline. The fire in her words ignited something deep inside a vocational call that beckoned me toward hope, despite the dark tendrils of doubt that threatened to entwine around us. "Right here," Marcus called again, gesturing frantically. "We can lose them behind the warehouse. Just do it," Jake urged, gripping the steering wheel. The car took a sharp turn that sent everyone bracing for impact. The walls of the warehouse loomed overhead, a crumbling fortress that felt much like our fading hopes. We barreled past the entrance, the looming structure seeming to engulf us. "Keep your head down," Jake commanded, glancing briefly at the rearview mirror as the van skidded to a halt, tires screeching against the grit of the ground. Inside the warehouse, shadows engulfed us, the dim light barely revealing the chaos around. I struggled to breathe, panic raging in my chest. I was overwhelmed with the strange mix of fear and the warmth of Lily's hand still clutched in mine. "What now?" I urged, desperate for a plan that could bring us out alive. "There's a service door at the back," Marcus said, glancing out cautiously through the broken windows. "If we make it there, we might find a way to slip out unnoticed." Minutes felt like hours as we huddled together, watching the van and praying no one would notice us lingering on the periphery of their twisted game. Tension brewed, thick and suffocating, until our unity was tested yet again when the sound of footsteps echoed their way into the warehouse. "Stay quiet," Jake whispered, ushering everyone deeper into the shadows. My heart raced as I strained to hear, breath hitching in my throat. What if they found us? A fistful of dread clutched my gut, urging me to bolt, and then, from the haze of shadows, a flash of recognition pierced through my fog of fear. A figure emerged familiar and sharp, a silhouette cloaked in the echoes of my past. My breath caught. "Evelyn." I breathed the name into the darkness, confusion layering my heart. "Easy, Nathan," she replied, stepping into the dim light, her expression a strange concoction of concern and resolve. "I have a way to help you." "But how?" You're not supposed to be here, I stammered, trying to reconcile the puzzle pieces of our shared history, the quiet pain that we'd both endured. Lily's grip on my hand tightened. Do you trust her? She questioned, her eyes searching mine, words laden with fear. Before I could respond, the warehouse door swung open, crashing against the wall. The van's occupants strolled in, their faces obscured but their intentions clear. They wanted answers. A chill curled my spine, the weight of old decisions crashing anew onto my shoulders like an avalanche. I can help you escape, Evelyn repeated, urgency threading through her words. But you have to trust me now more than ever. The tension, thick enough to slice through, made my head spin. Lily's unwavering gaze steadied me. For all the complexities, she remained my anchor. But just as I opened my mouth to respond, a scream of metal echoed through the warehouse, drowning the air as the figures from the van broke through the shadows. Their eyes trained on us, the fleeting moment of connection with Lily shone in the depths of my heart, rekindling hope amid despair. Yet I knew that there was no easy way out. The world around us felt heavier, the stakes having risen higher than I ever imagined. And then came a voice that stopped my breath right in my throat, one that held the power to change everything. Nathan, don't run. It's time we talked about your inheritance. The words dangled in the air like a bell tolling the end of innocence, a haunting reminder of a past I couldn't escape. In that moment, all illusions shattered. Each choice I had made had led me to this pivotal juncture, and I was left to grapple with the weight of it all. Would I embrace the truth, or would I let fear dictate my next move? The warehouse stood as a silent witness to the storm brewing within. I felt the walls close in, shadows wrapping themselves around my voice before I could even respond to that chilling declaration. The familiarity of the name inheritance was a ghost lurking in the corners of my mind, one I had thought better laid to rest. As Jake, Marcus, Lily, and I wrestled with our dire situation, I felt the weight of the past like chains anchoring me to a life full of blurred edges and unmade choices. The intruders advanced, their silhouettes stark against the dim light, and a shiver of dread skated down my spine. I glanced at Lily. Her fear mirrored my own, yet there was a spark of defiance in her eyes that sent ripples of courage through me. Time's up, Nathan, the voice insisted from the shadows, unmistakably dripping with condescension. My blood ran cold as I recognized the tone. It was George, my estranged uncle, the very man who had pledged to disinherit me for my transgressions long ago. What could he possibly want now, except to dredge up a past that had threatened to consume me? I cleared my throat, trying to amalgamate strength and resolve while facing the specter of my old life. What do you want? I managed, my heart hammering in my chest. I have nothing to say to you. George stepped into the light, barely more than a silhouette, yet radiating authority. His eyes narrowed with condescension, a predatory glimmer flickering through the darkness. Oh, but Nathan, you have so much to say about who you are, about the money that's rightfully yours, about the legacy you've tried to ignore. Every word tumbled like boulders in my heart, and a whirlwind of thoughts spiraled within, pulling me under. It had been a choice, a painful and netto distance myself from George and his money. I could taste the bitterness of 100 decisions swirling on my tongue, but I wasn't ready to dive back into that world. Not now, not here. You don't know anything about me. And yet here we are, he shot back, a mocking smile playing at his lips. When you and I last spoke, you were a broken boy, too terrified to do what needed to be done. But I can make you a king, Nathan. Together, we can reclaim what was lost. It's not too late. You mean your control? But with the words, I felt my heart race. Was the offer tempting? Could this be my way out of this mess? Shadows danced through the warehouse, mirroring the turmoil inside me. Before I could argue further, Evelyn stepped forward, silencing the room with her presence. Nathan doesn't need your money or your manipulations, George. What he needs is his freedom. A tense silence hung heavy, the air electrifying around us as Lily shot me a glance laden with confusion and disbelief. Did I even know what I wanted? The possibilities felt like a storm, crashing against the walls of my well-constructed barriers. And who are you to speak for him? George scoffed, dismissing Evelyn with a wave. Yet there was something in his eyes, fear, that made my insides twist with urgency. I suddenly understood I wasn't just fighting for my life, but for the lives of those I cared about. Evelyn straightened, her resolve unfaltering. Because I've seen him suffer under your reign. I've watched you twist and manipulate him into a puppet for your financial games. He is not yours to control. Marcus shifted uneasily, and Jake's grip tightened on the steering wheel as the atmosphere thickened. We were trapped in a bubbling stew of manipulation, desire, and pain. The heart of the matter dawned upon me in a moment's clarity. What did my father leave me, George? I demanded, summoning every ounce of courage. Is it everything you've claimed it to be, or just another scheme in your game? In that instant, Georges' mask wavered. That's what you care about, isn't it? You've always been a coward at heart. He spat, revealing a bonfire of rage before the glimmer of uncertainty spiraled through his facade. Enough, I shot back, stepping closer, the words spilling from my lips before I could rein them in. If my life is to be dictated by your whims, I would rather walk away completely. Hey! Pause hung in the air, the silence punctuated only by the muffled breaths of my companions. Lily's hand felt warm and steady in mine, but even that warmth couldn't stave off the anguish beginning to swell. Just as George opened his mouth to retort, the warehouse trembled beneath us, a sound of metal crashing through the chaos. The door Wed entered through shuddered like a living thing, as another echo of footsteps rang through the hall, heavier this to me a truer embodiment of our impending doom. Get out, Jake shouted, motioning toward another exit. An instinct took over. In an instant, we were bolting through the warehouse, the echoes of our pursuers reverberating behind us. I could feel the thrum of chaos nipping at our heels. Lily, full of grace under pressure, led the way, and Evelyn followed closely behind. I glanced back once more at George's face contorted in disbelief before I dashed into the darkness. But just as we reached the exit, eerie laughter sliced through the air, a sound so cruel and all-knowing it sent chills coursing through me. Nathan, remember, you can't escape what you inherit. And with that, the fabric of my world frayed, revealing truths I wasn't ready to face. The door swung open, exposing a world of uncertainty beyond, and I knew in that moment that my choices would have far-reaching effects, ones that might not just claim my life, but those of everyone I held dear. The damp air outside was a sharp contrast to the stifling atmosphere within the warehouse, but there was no time to breathe, no time to think. We streamed into the night, adrenaline pumping through each of us. The shadows wrapped around us as we fled into the thickening darkness. The streets felt foreign beneath my feet, their rigid lines blurring by the frantic pace. I kept my eyes on Lily, her expression a mix of fear and determination, a compass guiding me from one moment to the next. Evelyn flanked us, her fierce energy radiating solace in the chaos. But in the cacophony of footsteps behind us, whispers of my past clawed at the edges of my mind. Where do we go? Marcus gasped, turning back momentarily. His face was drenched in sweat, a reflection of the panic flaring in his chest. Just keep moving, Jake urged, his voice slicing through the night like a knife. We can't stop until we're far away from here. I hoped he was right. But as we rounded a corner, my heart sank at the thought of confronting George again. I could hear his laughter echoing through the recesses of my mind, taunting, chilling, a reminder that none of us had truly left that life behind. It clung to me like the stench of smoke that we skidded to a halt in front of the dimly lit diner that buzzed with flickering neon. The bell over the door jangled as I pushed through, urgency eclipsing my sense of decorum. I could sense the eyes of the few patrons lingering on us, curiosity mingling with alarm. Sit, Evelyn ordered. Her voice was assertive, anchoring me back to the present. It was a small booth, and we all squeezed in, the weight of unspoken tension thickening the air. I could see Jake's knuckles whiten as he gripped the table. Lily looked pale, and Marcus particularized an anxious glance over his shoulder. Okay, I whispered, taking a shaky breath. Let's take stock. What's the next move? Evelyn leaned forward, her voice low but steady. They're after whatever your uncle is after, Nathan. This isn't just about money. It's about your identity, and they know it. You can't let them control you. I nodded, swallowing the feeling of being trapped. Control, how hollow that word sounded now. Images of my father and the legacy I had thought I could discard flooded my mind, swirling like fallen leaves in the wind. But what if I don't want anything to do with it? What if I want to carve my own path away from this? Then you have to make sure they can't touch you or anyone you care about, Evelyn replied, her gaze piercing through to the very core of me. You need to confront the fear first, if summoned by that very notion. The door flew open, and a figure stepped inside, silhouetted against the brassy glow of the diner's sign. It was a woman, tall and elegant, with sweeping hair that fell like a waterfall down her back. My breath caught in my throat as recognition pierced through the fog of fear. "Mom?" I gasped, the word escaping me like a prayer turned curse. The moment froze, her eyes locking onto mine, a mixture of relief and anguish flashing across her features. "Nathan, oh my God, I found you," she exclaimed as she hurried towards our booth. The diner's clamor seemed to drown in the emotional tide rushing within me. My mother's presence, after all this time, was a tempest stirring the embers of old wounds. Fear churned with joy, memories clashed with regrets. "How did you know where to find me?" "I've been looking for you since everything happened," she said, glancing around as if expecting shadows to emerge from corners. "I heard about George and knew he wouldn't stop unless he had you back." "Stop what? What does he want?" The edges of my voice trembled, the overwhelming pit in my stomach urging me to pull away. Her eyes widened, a flicker of pain surfacing. "He wants to draw you in, create an alliance that would put you at the center of his game, your father's assets, Nathan. Everything you've inherited, along with the secrets tied to our family." Those words hammered at my heart. The weight of my father's legacy threatened to cascade all around me. But just as I began to process them, the sounds of far-off sirens filled the air, growing louder, cruelly announcing an encroaching danger. "We have to leave now," Jake urged, panic creeping back into his voice like a snake, coiling tighter. My mother reached across the table, squeezing my hand. There was warmth there, something I hadn't felt in years. "You can't run from this, Nathan. You have to face it. You must understand who you are and what's at stake, not just for you, but for your friends, for me." I shivered at her touch, both comfort and unease battling within me. But is that even possible? Knowing the truth? Will it set me free, or just reinstate the chains? "Only you can decide," she said softly. "But whatever happens, know that you are not alone." Then came a sudden crash from the back of the diner, heavy boots marching, voices blaring. "Get down," Marcus shouted as the heaviness of dread burst forth with a vivid clarity, and our reality twisted like a knife. In an instant, the world around us morphed into chaos. The air thick with smoke and desperation swept through me. I looked into my mother's eyes, those brilliant pools of love, and for a fleeting moment, I felt something close to hope blossom within the turmoil. But the very next moment, shadows crashed through the door, and I froze. Everything I thought I knew was vying for control, and as time seemingly paused, I realized the choice I faced was far heavier than I had ever anticipated. Then it happened. In the heart of that madness, I understood the truth with cruel clarity. My life had never truly been mine. Secrets wound back to me like vines, constricting tighter. Would I let them? Or could I finally sever the ties that bound me? The air crackled with tension as shadows swallowed the diner, turning our table into a battleground. My heart raced while a cacophony of chaos unfurled around us. Marcus' shout seemed to echo in the back of my mind, but all I could focus on was my mother's hand wrapped around mine, as though her grip was the thin thread holding my fragmented reality together. "Stay down," Jake shouted as he dove toward the booth's edge, his movements fluid and instinctive. The sound of flesh against metal sliced through the air alongside the shattering of glass. I could barely think. I felt trapped between realms, the past and present colliding in a tumultuous wave. Evelyn, her face a mask of fierce determination, didn't hesitate. "Get to the back," she commanded, directing us with an urgency that was palpable. "We need to find another way out before they reach us." I glanced back at my mother, her face drained of color, but her determination unyielding. "You have to follow them," she urged, her voice cascading through the din. "Promise me, Nathan. You can't let George trap you again. I can't leave you." The fight in my voice came too late, drowning in the thrum of sirens approaching from the outside, but layers of instincts kicked in. I looked at the doorway. The shadows had thickened, figures moving like storm clouds preparing to pour down destruction. Go. My mother's whisper stung, filled with urgency. "You can't stay. You need to survive." Faced with the choice rooted deep within me, I squeezed her hand one last time as tears threatened to spill. They'll find you, I promise. I shouted over the chaos. The group surged toward the back exit, but as we scrambled through the unfamiliar corners of the diner, the walls seemed to close in. It was a sheer labyrinth meant to disorient, but we clung to each other, our breaths heavy with dread. Would this be the last time I felt my mother's warmth, or could I come back for her once the storm settled? With every ounce of strength, we pushed through a door labeled employees only to be met with a dimly lit kitchen. The clattering of pans reminded me of home-off family dinners once chaotic but filled with laughter. But there was no time to reminisce. I pulled Evelyn, Marcus, and Jake toward a narrow exit that led out behind the diner. My heart pounded like a drum, each beat threatening to give way to despair. Would our escape serve just as a prelude to another confrontation? We burst into the cool night, the flicker of neon slowly fading as we stumbled into a quiet alley. Breaths came out in gasps, the echoing silence now a cocoon wrapping around us. I leaned against the brick wall, my mind racing with the weight of my choices. What now? Marcus breathed heavily, glancing anxiously at Jake. Keep moving, Evelyn said firmly. We can't stop. We're not safe yet. The adrenaline began to ebb slightly, leaving behind only the gnawing worry twisting in my chest. I could still see my mother's eyes, a mirror of uncertainty and fear, watching me with an unwavering love that felt impossible to bear. I needed to fight. The alley seemed to stretch infinitely ahead, the dark corners holding secrets I was too afraid to unearth. And then, with scraped palms and hoarse voices, we made our way toward the street only to suddenly halt as a figure emerged from the shadows. I wouldn't go that way if I were you. The voice cut through the night, slow but sure. It was low and dangerous, familiar yet alien. As the figure stepped forward, the silver flash of recognition sliced through my fog of fear. George, looking for something, Nathan? His smile was a twisted reflection of the man I once knew, and the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. Every breath I took felt heavier, a noose tightening around my throat. Just as panic surged through me, Evelyn took a step forward, shielding us, her eyes burning with defiance. You won't touch him. Not while we're here. A cruel laugh erupted, shattering the quiet of the night. Oh, but you're mistaken. This is exactly where he belongs, caught between what he fears and what he desires. Family, legacy. He leaned closer, taunting me with his words. Don't you see? This isn't just about the past anymore. I was lost in a tempest of confusion. George's presence was a storm bringing up despair from the depths. What do you want? I spat, the weight of my own helplessness clawing at my insides. Just a conversation, Nathan, he said, his tone dripping with mockery. A brotherly chat about your future. For a moment, it felt as though the world had stopped. My heart sank like an anchor, plunging deeper as layers of my past began to unfurl. Here was the confrontation I had dreaded, the embodiment of secrets sprawling out like an abandoned tapestry. Don't listen to him, Evelyn urged, her voice hot on my skin, her eyes locked onto mine. But as George's words loomed, taunting and teasing, I was pulled into a vortex of uncertainty. Could I truly outmaneuver the consequences of my lineage? Was there still time to sever those ties? Before I could respond, George's eyes shifted behind me. Well, look who decided to join the party. And within that moment, dread coiled tighter around my heart, as I turned to see another figure stepping out from the shadows, a woman draped elegantly in darkness, her posture regal yet menacing. My breath caught, and the same terror filled the atmosphere again. As she stepped closer, the unmistakable smirk curled across her lips, revealing the secrets I feared most. My world wavered, rocked by the sudden weight of revelation. Nathan, she called softly, I've been waiting for you. There, under the flickering city lights in a night streaked with darkness and echoes of shame, the last vestiges of hope drained away. The truth lay like a weight in the air, heavy and suffocating. You, I whispered, feeling the world tilt beneath my feet. The darkness creeping back in. Evelyn, Marcus, and Jake were momentary shadows in my focus. How could you? Is it so surprising to see your mother's ally, Nathan? She asked, her voice smooth like silk but cutting like a knife. You cannot escape your past, nor can you escape the legacy you've inherited. It's time to embrace what has always been your birthright. And oh, I shook my head, panic rising from the pit of my stomach, clawing at my sanity. You don't have a right to dictate my life. The statement felt flimsy against the certainty beaming from her presence. As my heart raced, I studied George's expression, his satisfied smile, as if I were a pawn in a twisted game they had set up. "Are you really willing to throw away everything, Nathan?" George taunted, stepping closer with every word slicing into my defenses. "Letting your friends take the fall for your choices? You'll regret it. Join me, and you'll have everything you desire. All the power, everything I built for you." The trap was laid, and I could see how easily I might stumble into it, back into the miry pit of deceit. "What? Your twisted version of power?" I shot back, my resolve hardening despite the fear gnawing at me. "You're using fear to hold me captive." The moment stretched, tethered in uncertainty. But glimpses of my mother, the warmth in her eyes, the strength I had never acknowledged shot through my mind. I could feel the me friends' displaced realities, their lives intertwined with my own. "I'm not running away any longer. I refuse to inherit your corruption," I shouted, shaking with the conviction rushing forth. Evelyn offered a nod, and Marcus shifted to stand closer, while Jake's fists were clenched, both ready to back me no matter the consequences. "Oh, that's rich, Nathan," George sneered, but I could see the flicker of something else in his gaze, fear. "So brave, yet foolish. You think you can sever yourself from the blood that binds you? Stitch the wounds with false bravery?" With one swift motion, George snapped his fingers, and the shadows behind him stirred. The silhouettes of sinister figures began to emerge from the darkness, creating a wall between us and our escape. "Enough," Marcus yelled, stepping forward. "You can't keep us trapped in this game of your making." But just as tension reached its peak, everything changed in an instant. The figures swooped in, and the chaos erupted. My heart thundered. The world morphed into a flurry of movement, screams, shouts, and panic echoed like a cacophony of desperation. I felt the adrenaline spike within me, my instincts sharpening. I couldn't let fear consume us. Turning back to Lily, I reached for her hand. "No matter what, we stick together, we fight." "Yes," she nodded, her fierce resilience igniting my spirit. There was a light between us, a promise of strength as we stood before the darkness threatening to engulf us. But just as the tumult swallowed us whole, George lunged forward, face filled with fury and desperation, reaching for me. "Nathan, fight with me. Come back, be part of this world." His voice shattered through the maddening chaos, a plea wrapped in a cruel invitation into the abyss. But my path was clear now. In one frantic motion, I caught the glint of a moment and turned. With Lily at my side, we began to break away, the fear propelling us backwards yet forward at the same time. "Together," I shouted over the din, leading her forward. The night blurred around us as we dashed toward the safety of alleyways, dark but necessary. I could feel George's fury rippling through the air, but nothing felt clearer than this surge of love and determination propelling us towards triumph. Unbeknownst to me, another sprint was about to unearth the very truths I so desperately sought to escape from, but this time, it held possibility. Time stretched cruelly as we emerged from the alley onto a busy street. Headlights streaked past, and the pulse of the city thrummed in my ears. "We need to blend in," Jake yelled, directing us towards a bustling cafe. The rushing scene felt so real, so alive, but I could sense the shadows lurking nearby, just waiting for the right moment to strike. In our quest for freedom, I couldn't shake the thought of my mother back in the diner, caught in a web of machinations. And suddenly it became real, the tenderness of resolved trauma unfolding in glimpses of what we could become. "They'll find her," I whispered, fierce determination anchoring my spirit. "She deserves something true." That flicker of resilience ignited across our group. Each heartbeat echoed with strength and purpose. Together, we navigated through the city streets like remnants of twisted fate weaving their way back toward hope. Just as we reached a corner coffee shop for refuge, my fingers brushed against Lily's, the warmth igniting sparks of what lay ahead. "Well, face this," I murmured, desperate to ground my promise in reality, gazing deep into her eyes. "Nothing will keep us apart." Outside, shadows swirled, but as the chaos churned, I realized something remarkable. It's in the acceptance of pain that one can find true strength. As the sirens faded into the night, solidarity rushed through me in a wave. We might have just stepped away, but I refused to run from what we've built together. No more ghosts or haunted pasts. Together, we will reclaim our futures. And as we gathered inside the warm light of the cafe, warmth and determination coursed through our veins. Whatever was coming, I would face it, crushing the chains that threatened to bind me to a past I wouldn't allow to define my future. In that fleeting moment, this collision of lives swirling like constellations, the truth became clear. Love, vulnerability, and the strength of connection had brought me here, pulling me back into the light. Together, we would write our own story from the ashes. As I sat, breaths mingling with the scent of brew and warmth, I felt lighter than air. We were survivors, buoyed by the slow currents of change, the last line echoing in my heart, a mantra for what was yet to come. This time, I would choose whatever inheritance I desired, the choice resting firmly in the power of love and the bonds that couldn't be broken. We would fight back, reclaiming everything that was rightfully ours.